That has definitely got a smell to it. All right. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and today I thought I'd do a short little video on how to make the most of these plastic wooden rectangle things that I use in my garden. When I first put these down, what was that, December or January sort of thing, before the soil was frozen, I piled the leaves up so that they were like domes. Right? There's a bit of play in this, so I piled the leaves up so they actually made, you know, a slight dome. And of course, with the heat and composting and just the weight of snow and stuff like that gets on it, it's flat. Now they're actually concave, so water gathers here, and if there's any kind of rain or kind of snow, it really doesn't do its best. Also, I'm not making the most of what this can do, right? You want to have a bit of air between the soil and the roof, I guess you could say, the top of it, to create a place where you can get a microclimate, right? So there is air here, but you want a dome so that the air can be trapped at the peak of the dome, so it'll do more to thaw everything out. I don't know what state. We'll have a look. I'm going to pop this open, assuming I can get it open. I'm going to pop this open and have a look at the state of the soil. Why do I not have my trusty homey gardening tool, you may ask? Well, because it's frozen in my shed and I can't get in there. There's all this ice and snow around the doors. So I'm using this thing, which is really only good for planting tulips. But anyway, so we'll pop this open and have a look and see what's going on in there. So with no further ado, let's get at it. It's a nice day. I'd say it's above zero. It looks like we're in the height of winter, but it's was it March the 10th or March the 11th, and we're coming, you know, this is the first day this entire winter where it's felt to me like, hey, you know, maybe spring's coming. It's first day in March where I've had that feeling, and so I'm itching to get outside. I had a video to put up, and I got that done. I just couldn't wait to get outside. I'm not even having lunch right now. I'm just so excited to be outside and, you know, reasonably nice weather to work in. Anyway, let's pop this thing open here. Yeah. I got these rocks here. Frozen on. Ooh, that has definitely got a smell to it. All right. Smells like compost in here, to tell you the truth. Is it thawed or frozen? There seems to be a bit of a crust. If you can get through it, yeah. Yeah, so unlike the rest of my soil in the garden, these things that are covered, there is a crust because we just had so many overcast, double-digit below zero days. But that crust will melt quickly. There's soil, nice soil. That crust will melt quickly if I can, you know, affect better conditions here. So all I'm going to do is just take the leaves. Remember, this material here is mostly air, right? So some people might say, you know, Greg, you need to remove all the leaves and expose the soil to the light, and I think in certain respects that would work. But you have to remember, at night it's still getting very cold. So by leaving the leaves on there, they keep it warmer at night. And they'll still, because the leaves are mostly air, they'll still, I'm going to create a little warm area here, right? It'll get up to 20 in here during a day like today, even though it's around 0 or even higher. It'll warm up these leaves. It'll create its own heat because it's composting, and that will melt the soil underneath. I'll follow up and show you. But anyway, let's see what we can do here in terms of gathering this up. And yes, I am exposing the soil around the edges, but that always takes forever to thaw anyway. I think I should have enough of this stuff. Now if I didn't have enough leaves, I mean I got a couple bags of leaves over there, but the leaves, they're frozen solid. I guess if I had to, I'll see how this goes, but I would actually throw some evergreen boughs on here to change this. And now let's just stick with this. Let's stick with the original idea. Just gather this up. Let's see what that looks like. Alright, so now I've created some sort of dome in here, a bit of a dome, a place to trap air properly. So now the sun can heat this up, warm it up. You know, when we dug in, we had maybe an inch or two of frost, and then the rest was completely thawed underneath that. Everywhere else here that doesn't have some sort of treatment like this, it's just frozen down. I don't know how deep the frost goes, but I did a video a while ago where I was going at one of my bare earth gardens. I left a couple just bare, because I always do that, because I do videos like this to show the difference. And they are just like rocks, right? It's like a giant stone. Whereas these, you might have a little inch or so of frost, and then it's thawed underneath. In fact, if you miss something I always talk about, because a lot of people have opinions on it, but I'm actually doing the experiments. I got cold frames right over there. And I grew some stuff in my cold frames and left a bit of the earth bare where I had the seedlings planted. That earth freezes every time it gets cold. And the area on the cold frame where I have a mulch around the perimeter, it's not frozen. So letting the sun at the soil when it's getting to minus 15, minus 20, or even colder with wind chill sort of thing, letting the sun on the soil when it's getting cold like that at night, it doesn't give the benefits you might think. Even though you have a microclimate, you're generating heat in there. You definitely want to trap air, and in one sense it's good to have the sun actually acting on the soil to heat it. But then if it's dropping down, like if it's only a few hours a day when it's actually warm in there and it's getting like minus 20 or something like that at night, it's just going to freeze again, right? So with this, you heat the air. And then when the sun goes down, when the lights go out sort of thing, right, and it gets cold, these can hold some of that heat in, because it's like insulation, like wool, right? So that's the general idea. There's some things work better than others. I would imagine if I had a system like this using hay, it would work even better. I found hay is just an amazing insulator. But you know, I sort of use what's easy to come by. People will ask me, use this, what do you use? I use whatever I can get, what I can get easily. I have a commute every day. I drive about an hour each way to work every day, and on my drive I see people throwing their bags of leaves out, so that's what I use this year. A couple of years ago I was working part-time, so I had more time in my hands, so I go to a farm and get spoiled horse stable hay. But you just use what you can get and make it work within your, within your life. Now, I'm kind of rambling here. Anyway, that's the general idea. You pop your domes off. If you did this sort of thing and they flattened out or even have gone beyond flattening, pop your domes up, fluff the stuff up a little bit, gather a bit to the center so you can get a sort of dome shape, and now you've got an area where air can get trapped, the air can heat up, the composting can begin to happen. I mean, if you've got a garden with a heavy mulch, it's basically perpetually composting. So all we're doing is setting up the conditions for that to start again. Remember, there's only about 2 inches of frost, so the worms aren't too far down below. Right? If I can melt that two inches of frost, a lot of stuff will start to happen at that top layer, which in and of itself will generate heat, right? Amplifying the heat that's being created by the sun. So that's what you want to do. You want to hit the on switch, right? And now I think it's the time of year to do that. Last year I was doing this stuff the last week of February, but this year, and every year is different, right? This year it seems like it's go time now, so I'm going to do this sort of thing for a week, and maybe next week actually sow some seeds, even though it's early. If I can get the soil thawed out and get some heat going on in there, I can get some things, tough things like spinach and lettuce, to germinate. Hey, I still got some batter in my camera, so I thought I'd show you that alternative approach. I got some evergreen boughs. There's an area of my property where the trees are all growing really close to each other. I mean, like little tiny Charlie Brown Christmas tree type trees, and they're all growing, you know, 6 inches apart from one another. Eventually, a lot of those trees will die anyway, and they'll space themselves out. So I might as well just use them. It's an available resource that costs nothing to get. So why not? And it actually, you know, helps the other trees get what they need to be stronger trees. So why not? Just like in your garden, you thin plants in your garden. So if you got a stand of trees and thinning them out is useful in some way, why not? Why not do it? So anyway, let's pop these off. Might as well check the soil out. Jeez, I just threw a rock on there. Let's pop these off and see what we got going on here. Jeez, what's going there good? There we go. That's more like it. All right. Nice. Kind of in the way. A bit. Let's do a little check. See if it's frozen or thawed. Well, it seems frozen, but I'm sure it's like the other one. Right, you go down far enough and you get into the soft stuff. I would assume. Boy, this one seems more frozen to me. But I haven't got a great tool here for getting down. Okay, yeah, we're through. So I'd say it's the same thing, 2 or 3 inches of frost, and then you're into the soft stuff. I know some people are gonna be skeptical, so I guess I'll show you. There we go. As always, skepticism is good. There, soil. All right. To anyone that's growing in a climate that isn't like this, they're probably like, what's the big deal? There's soil. But I can tell you, anyone with an uncovered stretch of garden that hasn't covered it with something heavily, where I live, their soil is rocks. It's just ice, because for the majority of the winter we didn't have any snow on the ground. We had really cold nights and that sort of thing, and some days it would get up above zero, but we would get in the double digits below zero, below freezing at night. And so when you get a winter like that, that was right up until the end of February. The whole winter was like that. And you get a bit of snow and a bit of rain, the ground just turns like concrete. And so you got to either cover with a whole bunch of material like this, or use domes, or do something like that to prevent it from freezing. So by doing this, the reason I've done all this is to just allow my gardening season to start a bit earlier, right, by getting this stuff thawed out. Because I've had years, I learned this the hard way gardening here in this microclimate, that when you have bad years like that, you might not be able to get anything to germinate till sometime in May. Whereas, you know, in a good year, maybe things will germinate in April, right? So by using the mulch and using these plastic things, and that's the different approaches I've covered in my videos, That's my way of working around the fact that we have some winters where there's no snow. It's a different game if you get a really heavy snowfall in December and snow just accumulates on top of that. I mean, the snow will hold in the heat that's in the ground and keep that ground from freezing if you're lucky all winter, unless you're really far up north. I'll have some people say, oh, why don't you leave the snow on? It'll warm everything. Snow does not warm anything. It's an insulator. If the ground is warm, the snow will keep it warm. But if the ground is cold, like all the ground here, like I got snow everywhere, but it's on top of frozen ground. I'd say a slab of, you know, clay, soil, and water that's just like ice. Right? So this snow is just keeping that frozen. And it's not going to thaw out until the snow's gone and the sun can actually start acting on that. I know people think snow warms things. It doesn't. Snow insulates things. If something's warm, the snow will keep it warm. If something's cold, the snow will keep it cold. So that's what I'm doing here. So instead of scuffing up these leaves and removing, exposing the soil around the edges like I did in the one over there, I thought I'd just get some of these boughs here. You don't want the main, you can put the main tree down, but it has to go underneath everything. I'll show you what I mean in a second. You're just making it, you gotta lay these, and I'm making this sound more complicated than it is, but you want to lay, because these are kind of pointy, right? You want to lay them down in a certain way that won't puncture your plastic. That's important. So like, this has sort of sharp points, so that's really not much use. That I can lay there. So you just lay these like this. So I'm laying them with this, they have two sides, a really green side and a light color. So when they're the light color side, they sort of go like that. Instead of being up, they're more down. So that's how you want to lay them down. To the best of your ability. That's also how you build, you know, a little bush bed if you were doing that sort of thing in the woods. Anyway, that's the general idea. I'll fast forward this, but you can watch me lay this out. It takes a few minutes, but it's all good. And know this this stuff is not going to acidify the soil. That's basically, that's a myth. This is not going to acidify the soil. Anyone that says that hasn't really done much reading on the relationship between pine needles and soil. You'll find, or this is spruce, but anyway, you'll find a lot of evergreens growing in acidic soil because they don't mind acidic soil. But they're not making the soil acidic. Often they're growing in sphagnum bogs and things like that. And sphagnum bogs, different mosses actually do acidify soil. But you know, spruce trees, pine trees and stuff like that, they don't acidify the soil. The soil is acidic where they grow because they like acidic soil, or they don't mind. I don't know if they like it, but because they'll grow in pH neutral soil as well. They just don't mind it. They're not bothered by it. A lot of plants can't take their nutrients up properly if they're in acidic soil. All right, now fast forward. There, that one was a lot better, a lot easier to get back into position. So you don't need to you know, the spruce boughs are actually better than the leaves in a lot of ways because they don't flatten out as easily, right? Because they're, wish I had one. They've got dimensions, right? They've got a certain kind of dimensionality. Actually, if you're ever camping and you forget to bring a pillow, you stuff a bunch of these into a shirt and they make a great pillow. Anyway, they've got that dimensionality. You know, they're three-dimensional in a sense, right? So they will hold their shape and help hold the dome. So you don't need them everywhere. You just need them in the center to bring it up. So there's a bit of an air space, right? And don't worry about the fact that they're shielding the sun from the soil. That'll work itself out just fine. The main thing is that you're heating up the air that's under this dome, and then all the magic can happen. So I hope you found that interesting, and give us some good ideas, and if it did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, MaritimeGardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.